Hi, I'm Kate,
And I'm Joe.
and this is
Dream with us.
every time, whether you like it or not, when I want to have a hard conversation, it always comes from the most loving place because I'm always thinking in terms of, I know that this will make our relationship stronger. This will lead us to a space where we can feel more connected as a couple and move forward from there.
So, one of the things we're doing now is we're reading a book called Money for Couples by Ramit Sethi and starting to work through that. Again, having new tools for us anyway to have these conversations is always a good thing and can build a relationship stronger. You don't have to have everything figured out. But like Kate mentioned, being brave, being willing to take the steps to move forward.
Being respectful, being kind, reminding yourself that the person in front of you is the person you love, that you are excited to spend the rest of your life together. For me, it's always about realizing that if I don't take this step right now, have this conversation now, how will I feel in 6 months, in a year, in 10 years? Because coming from divorce, I understood that it was the thing that I was not great at was being willing to be brave in those conversations, willing to look to the future, look towards how does this affect us long term. And I see every time, whether you like it or not, when I want to have a hard conversation, it always comes from the most loving place because I'm always thinking in terms of, I know that this will make our relationship stronger. This will lead us to a space where we can feel more connected as a couple and move forward from there.
And that really brings out a key element of these conversations, and that's trust. And Kate and I talked about that this week. That at its core, even when we disagree or have these challenging conversations, we trust one another, right? And that goes a long way. Now, what would you suggest though to someone that's in a relationship where trust is not there yet, or they still need to build some of that trust?
Trust is an action. Trust is not something, trust is something that's earned. And you have to build it up little by little. You have to look at it in terms of, I can't develop this skill overnight. So I need to be trustworthy first. I need to trust that my partner cares about me. My partner loves me. You have to first trust yourself to, one, speak kindly, speak openly, speak in a way that allows conversation to flow rather than to be stopped. I don't always practice this, but you know, when you're in arguments and you say you never do this and you always do this and you don't care, when you're placing it on the other person and you're projecting onto them, you're predicting how they'll behave, you're predicting what's going to happen next, you're not even allowing that person into the conversation. So you have to step back and then say, I don't trust that I'm not going to blow up right now. I don't trust that I can be kind right now. And be reflective of how you are reacting,
Yeah, I think that's such a good way of thinking about trust being in action. And it's an action that goes both ways, right? Because, another person has to earn your trust through their actions, through their behavior, through their consistency. And you need to kind of build that trust as well in the same ways. But as Kate is pointing out, how also you react to the other person in those situations. And this is true whether you're in a relationship or at work or other areas of your life. Being someone who people can trust and rely on is obviously an important character trait. But yeah, the idea that trust is an action or even a series of actions is really good.
But you have to realize that as much as my belief system or my idea of you is based off of my projection of watching you and how you behave. The same goes to how you think and look at me. And one, getting to know your partner in a way that you can ask them, what areas do you find me trustworthy, or what areas do you feel safe with me? How do you see me? And to get to know what that looks like, because if you come in harsh, if you are seen as kind of like a very straightforward, direct person, my way or the highway behavior, then it's hard for the person to feel like they can be open and honest with you when they're still figuring it out. And I think it's also very important in any relationship, family relationship, friends, partners, to always realize that you have an image of that person from when you first met them.
Right.
They are constantly evolving, they're constantly changing, learning, developing, growing. So grow with them, learn about them on a monthly, weekly basis, get to know them, ask them questions. For me, it was like, I know that you really hate student loans, and I'm scared that you won't take out student loans, and I'm going to have to figure out how to make this happen. When in reality, once we were able to sit down and have the conversation about it, the conversation was more that when you had to go through taking out student loans, you felt like it was more predatory lending, more like they demanded you to take out more than you needed. And it got out of control in that way because you were young,
Right.
you know? And
so I have a real aversion to debt, and that is turned out to be a healthy aversion, right?
Yeah.
Because I really learned about by reading books, by listening to people like Dave Ramsey early on, where you learn how harmful debt can be. And while certainly we're not debt free, we have a mortgage and all of that other stuff, like many people do.
But we don't carry any credit card debt. We
Right.
don't have a ton of, we try to pay down our car loans,
Yep.
all those things.
Yep.
But we're very mindful of that. And we try to pay for our vacations with cash. We plan for it. We save up a lot of money.
And that's where some of the conversation that we had this week helped, because we do trust each other. We are mindful of how we budget and plan for things. But the reality of having two boys going to
Expensive schools.
expensive colleges together, different colleges, but at the same time, really is a reality that you have to think about. And again, if Kate and I were met when we were much younger, we might have been able to plan much more effectively for their education and invest or have something like a 529 or whatever. But because we did meet later in life, the boys were a bit older when we met. We didn't have that long-term opportunity to plan. So here we are. Right.
Yeah.
And
we're so proud of them, and we want to stay in this mindset of expressing joy and excitement for them, while also teaching them about the dangers of taking out too much. We really sat them down, discussed listen, I want you to go to those schools. That means that your job right now is going to work and applying for scholarships and applying to as many scholarships as possible, because we want you to walk away with as little debt in your pocket as well.
That's right. Yeah. And thankfully, Kate and I are blessed with our boys, because they are hardworking. They're willing to, do their part. They are every day now, or, I just applied to another scholarship, or
Yeah.
I'm putting an application for a summer job. And that also makes it easier for us to have these conversations, because we know our boys are responsible, good young men.
I sat them down and I said, listen, this is stressing me out, and I don't want to take away this joy from you. I don't want to take this away, but I need you to check in. I need you to communicate with me that you've applied to a scholarship, that you are looking for a job, that you are thinking about it, you're making connections, and that really helped because they started talking to me and telling me what's going on. And that gave me the space to go, you know what, it is going to be okay. We're going to be all right.
Right. And it's also a lesson for them to learn how to communicate effectively with their parents as they get older. We're not mind readers, and so we're not sure where they are in a particular process, and they are young adults.
Yeah.
So
And they're
it's
very laid back and cool, and you're like, whatever, mom, it's cool. Why are you
kind
so
of
stressed?
like their stepdad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's like living in a house of all boys. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, she loves it. And but that's it. It's teaching them how to have these conversations, how to be more expressive in what they're doing, and it eases all of the anxiety, or at least a lot of the anxiety we may be having in a particular moment.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I think, one of the why we've created this channel, what we're working towards is, giving us the space to lean in to those dreams, to start planning effectively, start communicating what that looks like in the next 5, 10, 20 years, and knowing that it doesn't just stop. You don't just go, okay, I figured it out. It's all done. It's learning about yourself. It's learning about your partner. It's learning how to have the very best life that you can possibly have. Like, in this book, they talk about, the differences between how often we can be abrupt and harsh in our conversations when it comes to money versus can you plan for your dream life? What is your dream to be in 5, 10 years? Do you want to vacation for 2 months? Do you want to buy a second home, a vacation home? Do you want a boat? Do you want, like, all those things? You can't just have it happen overnight. You can't just one day walk in onto a block and say, I'm going to buy this boat right now.
Right.
Your relationship will be harmed if you do that. If you don't talk to each other, if you don't plan for that, if you don't actually discuss what you want. If I decided to not have the conversation with Joe about college for the twins, I would have harmed our relationship. If I didn't discuss why it was so important to me to make sure that they went off and did what they wanted to do, I would have harmed the relationship. And he wouldn't have even realized it because he's working on it on his own. He's doing his thing. And we become two people passing in the night. So it's so important, I think, even more so as our kids get older, as we get older, to really communicate all those hard things that we have to talk about, whether it's health, relationships, homes, cars, finances, retirement. If you don't get better at talking at this stage, it gets much harder.
Well, and that's really, why we started this channel is, we wanted to help people kind of move through to the next chapter of their lives. And I mean, it's messy. It's not always, oh, look at us. Here we are having a great time as we move into the next chapter of our lives. It is. It's messy. And how you get over those challenges really requires, like we were talking about, really requires trust, communication, not just, using the shorthand language or not communicating at all.
Right. Just doing your own thing, refusing to communicate, not talking about what happened in your day.
And exploring where some of these anxieties about whatever the issue is, in our case, finances, where those come from, and can you move past them? Can you name them? And then can you kind of process and move through those? And having those conversations, communicating together, I think helped us through this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is so important to learn how to communicate clearly. And there's like a wealth of knowledge, like we were saying, this book that we're reading now, the books in the past that we've read, each podcaster and YouTuber that we are watching, we're learning so much about what that next stage looks like. When we first started this channel, it was from sitting on the couch, watching YouTubers who had made the leap to move to Italy or Portugal, and it sparked that dream in me. It sparked that desire to be able to go out and think maybe one day we could own a place in Italy and live there. And Going to Italy a couple of years ago, it like transformed me completely into like how much I loved that country, and realizing like, wow, if I just put one foot in front of the other and I start planning and start looking at our finances, looking at what we need to do, could it possibly be a reality?
Yeah.
But it couldn't be a reality if I never had a conversation.
Right. And being willing to have that conversation and start to develop a plan to look forward. And we are planning another trip to Italy again to see how we like it and what the possibilities are to, in some way or another, in a few years, retire there.
Yeah. So, one foot in front of the other, making connections, learning more about it, and trusting the process.
Yeah. So again, if you have questions or comments about this topic of conversation around finances, please put those in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you prefer Spain or Portugal over Italy or some other country, put that in the comments too. We'd love to have that conversation as we're planning our next chapter.
Because, I tried to get the boys to apply to schools out there so we can just go and visit them there, but that didn't work. So.
Not yet. So dreamers, until the next time, dream with us.
Dream with us. Talk to you soon. Good.
You start.
How do I start?
Hi.
Hi. Hi. I'm Kate.
And I'm Joe. And this is
Dream with Us.
Welcome back, dreamers.
This is a channel that we are dedicated to teaching and learning about communication, staying motivated, and staying inspired for your next chapter in life.
And she's going to try that again.
It was good. It was great. Perfect.
Yes, it was, dude. It was fantastic.